Right, guys, in the previous session that we did, I showed you the basic structure and the functioning of a nerve. And I told you guys that the nerves, they are those tissues that are actually responsible for transporting messages. And we say those messages are known as impulses. So they are responsible for transporting impulses all the way from different parts of the body to the brain. And I showed you the model that we used to describe that. And I said, if we have got a model like this, the nerves, we have got spinal nerves and cranial nerves, but we usually focus on the spinal nerves the most. The spinal nerves, I told you guys also that they transmit impulses or messages from different parts of the body to the central nervous system, which is the brain and the spinal cord. So if it happens that there's a message that is happening here at the hands, that message will be transported all the way to the other part, to the central nervous system. Okay, so it will be transmitted all the way to the central nervous system. So now today will now be a bit deeper on how do the messages move all the way from them, all the way from different parts of the body, so that they can be able to reach the central nervous system. That's what we're going to be talking about. All right. So first of all, I'm going to talk about the basic way in which your brain, how information is receiving, how your brain or your spinal cord is receiving information. All right. So basically, to describe how information is transmitted. So let's just talk about how information is transmitted, right? So how is information transmitted, right? So basically, remember that we say that whatever happens in the outside world, it can be transmitted, it can be transported to the brain and the spinal cord, because the central nervous system, it is the one that processes all the information of what is happening in the body. The central nervous system, which is the brain and the spinal cord. So let me just say, for example, you see something, or maybe you've got a vision, or you are able to see something. Maybe you are seeing a tree, or you are seeing the laptop, or you are seeing your phone or something like that. That is information. And that information is actually transmitted in form of impulses. So we say basically information is transmitted in form of impulses. So basically, impulses are simply electrical signals, or these are the messages that are sent to the brain. So we say these are the electric signals, or these are the messages that are sent to the brain. All right. So we usually call them as nerve impulses, not just impulses. We call them nerve impulses, because basically the impulses or the messages, they are transmitted by the nerves. Okay. And the nerves, we're talking about the neurons in this case, because we already told you guys that the nerve tissue is made up of neurons, the cells known as neurons. Okay. So if it happens that there is a piece of information in the outside world, let's just say here you are seeing a picture of something. You can see a picture of a person. Basically, for your brain to end up processing that you are able to see a picture, what actually happens, this picture or this light that you are seeing on the picture, it is actually known as a stimulus. Remember, guys, we say that the stimulus is whatever condition is happening in the outside environment. So this is a what? This is a stimulus. This picture that you are seeing, the light coming from this picture, it acts as a what? As a stimulus. And then this stimulus, for this picture to end up ending in your brain, how does it end up in your brain? Like, how do you end up being able to perceive that you are looking at a picture? Because I told you guys in the previous session that you do not see with your eyes, but you see with your brain. You do not hear with your ears, but you hear with your brain. So the information that is collected from these sense organs, it needs to be converted into an impulse or into a message that the brain can understand. So basically, whatever it is that you see or you hear, it is taken in by a what? By a sense organ. So when we're talking about a sense organ, we're talking about the organs that are responsible for giving us the five senses. We have the sense of smell, the sense of taste, the sense of sight, the sense of hearing, and what else? Whatever it is, but the senses that you know. For example, so when we're talking about the sense organs here, we are talking about the organs such as what? organs such as the mouth. The mouth, remember, it is responsible for tasting. Okay, the nose is responsible for smelling, and then we also know that the ear is responsible for hearing. All of that. So those are sense organs. So sense organs, they collect information from the outside environment, and basically they have got these things known as receptor cells. So sense organs have got these things known as what? As receptor cells. So on the sense organs, we've got these things known as the receptor cells. What do the receptor cells do? They actually convert this information into an impulse, into a nerve impulse, because remember that the information needs to go to the brain, it needs to go to the central nervous system. Whatever information it is that you see outside, it's either you are seeing with your eyes, or you are smelling with your nose, or you are hearing with your ears. Whatever information that your brain can perceive, it needs to be first converted into an impulse, into a nerve impulse. A nerve impulse is simply an electrical signal that your brain will understand. So basically, there are receptor cells that are found on the sense organs. So on the mouth, we have got receptor cells. On the nose, we also have got receptor cells. On the ear, we also have got receptor cells. On the eye, we also have receptor cells. Because basically the eye, whenever you are seeing something, whenever you are seeing an image, or you are seeing a person in front of you, that information needs to get to your brain so that you can really perceive that this is a person that you see. Okay, so basically these sense organs such as the mouth, the nose, the ear, and the eye, they've got receptor cells. And the function of receptors, it is to convert the stimulus into an impulse. So we say the function of a receptor is to convert. So the receptors convert information, or they convert a stimulus. Remember, the information that is happening outside the environment, we say it is known as a stimulus. So they convert the stimulus to what? To nerve impulses. Nerve impulses are just electrical signals. I've already told you guys that your body actually functions out of electricity, if you didn't know. For you to hear sound, it is just electrical signals that are reaching your brain from the ears. For you to be able to see a person, or for you to be able to see, basically it is electrical signals known as nerve impulses. Okay, so nerve impulses are just simply electrical signals that move from the sense organs all the way to the central nervous system. All right, so their receptor cells, their function is to convert. So receptor cells, they convert the stimulus to a what? To a nerve impulse. So that impulse, now remember guys, we say that the impulses or the messages, they are transported by the nerves. Okay, they are transported by the nerve tissue. And specifically, the nerve tissue consists of neurons. So basically, when the information has been converted, or when the stimulus has been converted into an impulse, information can be anything, guys. Can be sound, or it can be sight, or anything that is happening in the outside environment. As long as your brain can think about it, that is a stimulus. So it has to be converted into a message known as a nerve impulse. And the receptor cells that are found on the sense organs, they are the ones that convert that stimulus. They are the ones that convert that information into a nerve impulse, which is just an electrical signal. And that nerve impulse, it is actually transmitted. Okay, so that nerve impulse, it is actually transmitted, or it is transported using the neurons. So basically it is transported using the neurons. So we have got three types of neurons that we talk about. Okay, let's just say it is transported using the what? The neurons. Just say in simple terms before we get deeper. So basically the nerve impulses are transported through neurons. And where do they go? They go to the central nervous system. Because I told you guys that the central nervous system, which is the brain and the spinal cord, those are the two organs that are responsible for controlling each and everything that is happening in your body. Whether it is hearing something, feeling something, tasting something, all of it is controlled by the central nervous system. So at the end of the day, the message that is coming from the external environment, it needs to be able to move. It needs to be able to be transmitted all the way from the different parts of the body to the what? To the central nervous system. And the neurons are the ones that are responsible for that. The cells known as the neurons, they are responsible for transmitting those impulses, for transmitting those messages to the central nervous system, the brain and the spinal cord. Okay. So by the time it reaches the central nervous system, it will be interpreted. So at the central nervous system, we have got the main thing, which is interpretation. So now it simply means that now you can interpret the stimulus now to say, what kind of information is happening outside. For example, right now you can hear my voice. How can you hear my voice right now? It is your brain that is interpreting that this is my voice. If someone else comes with a different voice, you would say, no man, this is not his voice. This is not my voice. And how would you see that? It's basically because your brain is the one that is interpreting what it is hearing outside. So you do not really hear with your what? You do not hear with your ears. You do not see with your eyes. You actually see with your brain. It's all about how you interpret it. How does your brain interpret whatever stimulus it is? But for that stimulus to get to the central nervous system, for that stimulus to get to the brain or the spinal cord, it needs to first be converted into a message known as an impulse. And that message will be transmitted via neurons to the central nervous system, which is the spinal cord and the brain. Are we clear, Gretchen? Okay. So from that now, we need to just know this is the basic structure of neurons. This is the basic function of the neurons. Okay, let's just take for example, let's just have a scenario whereby we just go to this diagram of a human being. If we go to this diagram of a human being and then we do something crazy to him like last time. So what am I going to do to this person? I'm just going to put a hot plate stove. I'm just going to take a hot stove and then I'm going to just place it underneath his feet. So I'm going to take a hot stove and place it underneath his foot. So basically, if I place a hot object underneath your foot, basically you're going to feel hot, right? But remember, guys, I told you that you do not really feel with your skin. Your skin is not really feeling anything, but it is your brain that is perceiving it as a hot surface. All right, it is your central nervous system in general that is perceiving that this is your what? This is a hot surface. So if it happens that here I just bring a hot stove to this person, basically the person will respond quickly, okay? And you'll be asking yourself, how did this information reach the central nervous system? Because basically for this person to end up removing his leg from the hot stove, the information first needs to get to the central nervous system. The information is that it is a hot place here. You need to get your leg out of here. That is the information. That is the stimulus in this case. The stimulus is the heat. Anything that is happening in the outside environment is a stimulus. So that stimulus is carried by these nerves here, these spinal nerves, and then it is transmitted. It is transmitted or transported all the way to reach the central nervous system. And it happens so quickly. That is why when I told you about the structure of the neuron last time, I told you that the neuron, it consists of myelin sheath. We have got a structure known as what? As myelin sheath in the neuron. And we told you guys that the myelin sheath, its whole function, it is to do what? It is to insulate the neuron. Why are we insulating the neuron? So that the impulses can move faster. Okay, so that the impulses can move faster, because impulses need to move faster because this is a quick response that you need to give. For example, if I were to sit in front of you and talk in front of you, when you are looking at my mouth and you are hearing what I'm saying, it will correspond even immediately. You won't find out what I said something and then you hear it 5 seconds later. No, you will hear it immediately the moment I say it. It is because that information is transported faster to the brain. It is transported faster to the central nervous system. So basically the neurons are the ones that are doing that. The neurons are making up the nerves. Whatever you are seeing, these lines here, these are made up by neurons. So that is what we explained last time. And we also said, the structure of a neuron is this way. The neuron has got a dendrite, it has got a cell body, and axon. Okay, a cell body has got a nucleus. Basically, the dendrite, we say that the function of the dendrite, it actually transmits the impulses towards the what? Towards the cell body. Okay, so basically when the information or when the impulses are now entering here at the dendrites, as we've labeled last time, as the information enters here at the dendrites, it is going towards the what? Towards the cell body. So the information or the impulses, we say that they're known as nerve impulses. Remember, we don't just say information. So basically, the nerve impulses are being transmitted through the dendrites towards the cell body. And then at the cell body, they're going to meet a nucleus and they're going to be processed. And how do those impulses live? They actually live through the axon here. So we've got an axon structure here at the bottom part. This one that I'm highlighting in green, it's an axon. It is the one that is transmitting impulses away from the cell body of the neuron. So basically the impulses, they move so fast. They move very fast, less than a millisecond. You cannot even see Uguti they have moved, because right now you are hearing me because the information that I'm talking is reaching your brain quickly. So basically those impulses, those nerve impulses, they move so much faster. All right. So now we have got 3 types of neurons now that we have whenever we have got a response to the environment. All right. So we've got 3 types of neurons. We have got a central, we've got a sensory neuron. So we've got the first neuron that we have is known as a sensory neuron. So the sensory neuron is otherwise known as an afferent neuron. So they can say it's an afferent neuron, or they can say it's a sensory neuron. So basically, remember, guys, that I told you that the moment the information, such as heat, such as heat and everything like that, the moment it reaches the sense organ, such as the skin or the eyes or whatever it is that is sensing, that information or that stimulus is converted into a message known as an impulse. And what is converting it is the receptor cells of the what? Of the sense organs. That is the one that is the part that is changing the stimulus into an impulse. Because guys, come on, the information cannot just go the way it is. Let's just say, for example, guys, let's be realistic a bit. If we become realistic a bit, if you are on a hot surface like this person here, if we put back this person that is on a hot surface, would you think that the heat will be transferred? Like you will feel it, you will feel hot the entire body, and the information will be like going to your brain and you start feeling hot in your brain. Does that actually happen, guys, or you actually feel hot in your legs alone? Guys, does that happen right now? Yes, your legs only. Legs on you, the heat doesn't really, the stimulus itself, in this case, the heat itself does not move through the nerves and to go to a central nervous system. Like if one part of the body is feeling heat, then the entire body will feel heat. If it happens, the stimulus is transmitted directly, exactly as it is. But first of all, it is converted into a what? Into a nerve impulse. It's a message, guys. It's a message. And it is being transmitted via the neurons. So the neurons are transmitting nerve impulses, which is just messages. So they are transmitting messages to the central nervous system to tell them, no man, it is very hot down there. It's just messages, guys. It's not really the entire stimulus. If my hand would get warmer or it would get hotter or something like that, imagine if the heat was to transfer through the entire body, then my whole body will burn. Okay, so basically here we are not really conducting, or we are not really transmitting the stimulus. We are transmitting the nerve impulses, which are just messages. So each and every stimulus will be converted into a message that the brain and the central nervous system itself can understand. So that is the nerve impulses. All right. So now the moment the receptors change the stimulus into an impulse, that impulse, it actually goes into the sensory neuron. This is the first neuron that will receive the what? The impulses. So basically the sensory neurons, where are they found? The sensory neurons, they are actually attached to the what? To the sense organs, or they are attached to the receptor cells. So basically, if we can just make another short diagram here, we can simply say here, the moment the receptor, so we've got our receptor, the moment your receptor changes the stimulus into an impulse, the receptor will take out an impulse. And where is this impulse going? it goes into the first neuron known as the what? The sensory neuron. So the sensory neuron, it is very close to the receptor cells, because basically the moment the receptor changes the message outside, the moment this receptor changes the message outside, what will happen? That message or that nerve impulse will now be sent into the sensory neuron. So don't forget to write nerve impulse here. So the nerve impulse is sent directly into the what? Into the sensory neuron. So the sensory neuron is otherwise known as an afferent neuron, because basically the impulses are entering through the sensory neuron. So that's the first type of neuron that we have. So basically, I'm sure you guys can see that these are the dendrites, as we've already labeled before. So these are the dendrites of a sensory neuron. This is how the dendrites of a sensory neuron look like. They look like tree shapes, okay? So basically at the dendrites, you already know that impulses are entering here. They are coming from the receptor cells and they are entering here. And they keep on entering, they keep on moving and moving and moving, and they move towards a cell body. So for a sensory neuron, do you guys see where the cell body is? Is different from this one that we used as a label last time. So the sensory neuron, you can see that its cell body is in the middle here. This is the cell body of a sensory neuron. All right. So, but still the dendrite is still doing the same function. It is transmitting impulses from the receptor cells. Ensure the receptors have converted whatever is happening outside, have converted it into an electrical signal, into a nerve impulse. We say it's a nerve impulse, or you can say it's an electrical impulse. So that is why it's written the direction of impulses, to show that basically the impulses are moving this direction. So they enter through the dendrites and they go towards the cell body. And then now when they go towards the cell body, they will be processed at the cell body and they will live here at the axon. So this is the axon here. Remember, the axon is basically where these impulses are living. So they will live here at the axon, and then now they will live here at the terminal branches of the axon. Say that these are known as the terminal branches of the axon. These ones. These are terminal branches. These are terminal branches of the axon. So now your impulse will enter through the dendrites. It will go towards the what? Towards the cell body. It will be processed there, and then it will now move to the other part. Okay. So this sensory neuron, what does it do? It carries impulses from their receptors. Whenever you describe the function, the sensory neuron, it carries impulses from where? From their receptors towards the central nervous system. As I've already told you guys that the whole function of these nerves, of this nerve tissue, basically it is for what? It is for transmitting information, for transmitting impulses from their receptors all the way to the central nervous system. Remember guys, the receptors are the ones that are converting the information, the stimulus, into a nerve impulse. And then now when the information is now in form of a nerve impulse, it now goes to the into the sensory neuron. The sensory neuron will be the one that will take that impulse to the central nervous system. So if I'm saying that it will carry the impulse from receptors to a central nervous system, it simply means that it is carrying the impulses to either the spinal cord or the brain. So there are two options here. There are two things that can happen here, grade 12. The impulses can either be carried to the spinal cord or the brain. So basically here, our sensory neuron, let me just write here and say our sensory neuron here, it is carrying the impulses. So it is having impulses inside it, and then it is carrying them to either the brain or it is carrying them to the spinal cord. So either one of these two. Remember guys, the brain or the spinal cord together, they are known as the central nervous system. So it can happen that the impulse or the information, so these impulses that are being transmitted by this sensory neuron are being transmitted to the brain or the spinal cord. So now, if they are being transmitted to the brain, it means that you'll be able to sense. Remember that the brain will be able to sense whatever it is that is happening, right? So for example, if it is sound, if these are from the sensory neuron and they are going to the brain, it means that you can now sense the sound. But we're not going to be focusing on the brain one. We're going to be focusing on the impulses that are transmitted directly to the spinal cord. and they do not go to the brain. Because sometimes it can happen that the information, remember that the brain and the spinal cord, all of them, you can refer to them as the central nervous system collectively. But the impulses, when we say that they are being transmitted to the central nervous system, they don't always have to go to the brain. Okay, you don't always have to think about it, because the moment something goes to the brain, it means that you are thinking about it. That is thinking. Rather than saying sensing, I can just say that is thinking. Okay, so the moment you talk about a brain, it means that there is thinking that is going on. You are processing information right in the brain. But Tina, we're not going to focus on that. We're going to focus on the one that is going towards the what? The spinal cord. So if it happens that the information goes to the spinal cord immediately and it does not go to the brain, it's possible for that to happen. So it means that you do not think about it. But you'll be like asking yourself, hi man, I always think about everything that is happening. But honestly, let's just say, for example, you mistakenly touch a hot stove. A stove like is on there. The stove is on, and then you mistakenly, or you tip and fall on a stove, and then you touch it with your hand. The moment you touch the stove with your arm, I mean, the moment you touch the stove with your hand or your arm, it's going to feel the burning sensation, and you are going to pull out your hand immediately from that stove. You are going to pull out the hand immediately from the what? From the stove. But you do not think about it. It is your spinal cord that does the work. Basically, you do not even think about removing the hand. It's a quick response. It's just a quick response that happens on its own, grade 12. So basically, we say that is known as a reflex action. A reflex action, when we define it as a quick response that only involves the spinal cord and it does not involve the brain. So basically, when you are escaping an emergency situation, let's just say I step on your foot right now. I step on your foot right now. If I step on your foot, you're going to immediately pull out your leg from mine, under mine. You're going to pull out your leg. Why are you pulling out your leg right now? You're pulling it out because you are feeling the pain, but it's not really you that is pulling it out. It is like you don't even have to think about it. The information doesn't even go to the brain. The moment you feel that you are being hurt on your foot, you are being hurt and you are experiencing pain on your foot, that information or those impulses, they are not going to the brain. They are not sent to the brain. Your brain never even thinks about it. That is why it's a quick response. It happens quickly. It only involves the spinal cord. So this is what we'll be talking about today mainly, which is the reflex action. But you guys, you should know that the reflex action, basically, before we complete this sensory neuron, you guys should know that a reflex action is a what? It is a rapid and is an automatic response to a stimulus received by an organ or another receptor. It's a reflex action. It's a quick response, guys. When we say that here, it is a quick response, it is a rapid. Rapid simply means quick. It's the same thing as saying quick. So when you say this is a rapid response, it means that it happens so quickly and it happens automatically. So whenever you are taking your hand away from a hot surface, it is not really you thinking about it. You don't even have to think about it. You don't even have to use your brain for that. In fact, the messages or the nerve impulses, they are not even transmitted to the brain for you to even think, no, I should remove my hand from this hot plate. No. Instead, it's an involuntary action. It's involuntary because it happens on its own. Okay. Even if you I have never seen someone putting their hand on a hot surface and they'll be like, it's very hot. Let me think about removing my hand. No, you don't even think about it. It happens on its own. It's an automatic response. It's involuntary. You don't have to choose it. So the reflex action is a rapid, automatic response. But here we'll be deeper on it when we come back from our break. But Mina, I wanted to relate to this sensory neuron. I was telling you the impulses are coming from the receptors. The receptors are found near the sense organs, such as the ears, the skin, the eyes, any organ that can be able to sense something. If your skin is feeling the heat, guys, the heat is the stimulus. It is converted into a message known as a nerve impulse. And that nerve impulse, it moves from the receptor straightforward, it goes to the sensory neuron. Then the sensory neuron will take it to the central nervous system. When I say that it will take it to the central nervous system or to the CNS, we are actually trying to say that it can either take it to the brain or it can take it to the what? To the spinal cord. So it means that the impulses or the information, whatever information it is that your organs are sensing, it can either go to the brain or the spinal cord. But now we are saying that we're going to talk about the one that is going to the spinal cord, which is a reflex action, an event that just happens automatically without even thinking about it. Are we still together, grade 12 God?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. And then now, one other thing, grade 12, is that, okay, here's Bunole saying, what if the person can't feel the hot thing? So what was the disturbance there? You must feel it, unless you've got a problem. You are still going to look at problems and conditions that are associated with the nervous system. Yeah, but you must be able to feel the pain if there's pain. If you are normal, of course. Yeah, if you are average, if you are like the other people, that's what I meant. So the polarity of this sensory neuron, we say that it is a unipolar, or you can say that it is bipolar. Bipolar or unipolar, what does it simply mean? Simply means that we have got dendrites at each pole. We have got dendrites at each pole. When we say that we've got dendrites at this pole, basically polarity, we mainly focus on the position of the cell body. All right. So let's just go for a 10 minutes break, then we'll come back here to finish up.
Hey Lapo, I know that you've been enjoying this wonderful video and most likely you've been enjoying watching this handsome face in front of you, but sorry ladies, I'm taken. I just here to tell you that Educate is on the road to 100,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. So please click the subscribe button and click the notification bell so that you get notifications whenever I post new videos. I want you guys to pass. Okay, so if you make my dream true, I reach 100k subscribers, I will make your dreams come true. I will even get you to varsity. I will get you with 7 distinctions. Yes.
We left off. So we're still explaining that the sensory neuron, it can be unipolar or it can be bipolar. So basically, a sensory neuron can either be unipolar or it can be bipolar. Basically, sensory neurons differ. So we've got some sensory neurons that are found inside the eyes, and we've got the sensory neurons that are found in other parts of the body, or maybe at the spinal cord. All right. So basically, when you say that a sensory neuron is unipolar, it means that it only allows the impulses to flow in only one direction. So the term unipolar here, it suggests that the impulses, they are actually flowing in only one direction. For example, in this particular example, the sensory neuron that is given, it is unipolar because we can see that the neurons are just in one direction. So basically, the sensory neuron, we say that it can be unipolar. So unipolar, it simply means that the impulses, they are moving in only one direction. But it can also be multipolar. It can also be bipolar as well. But you guys will never do bipolar neurons at all because you guys are still at a grade 12 level. You just need to know that the sensory neuron can either be unipolar or bipolar. But basically, when you say that it's a unipolar, it simply means that the direction at which these impulses are moving, they are moving in the same direction. All of them, they are going down from the dendrites to the axon, to the cell, through the cell body to the axon. So they're just moving in a one direction. So it's unipolar. So that's the sensory neuron. I've already told you guys that the sensory neuron is taking this information and it is taking it to the what? It is taking it to the central nervous system. It is taking it to the central nervous system. So basically, let's talk about how to identify that in a reflex action, because I already told you guys that in a reflex action, basically, we have got a rapid and an automatic response to a stimulus. For example, if you are experiencing let's just say maybe you step on a nail. I'm sure you guys know a nail is big. If you step on a nail, what will happen? You are going to feel the pain and you're going to remove your foot from the nail immediately, right? It is basically because that is stimulus, right? Then the stimulus in that case, it is the pain from the nail. It is converted into a message or a nerve impulse. And remember, this one will be a rapid and a quick action that will do you will immediately remove your leg, guys. You won't even have to think about it. So the impulse is there, or the information or the message that is being received there at your skin, it goes straight to the spinal cord. All right. So this is how it looks like. This is known as a reflex arc. This is just the path that an impulse travels so that you can end up responding to the stimulus. For example, if my hand is on top of the stove that is hot, I always be using the same example because those are the common ones. So if my hand is on top of a hot stove, all right, my muscles need to respond immediately and they need to pull my hand out of the what? Of the hot plate stove. All right. So the impulses, they need to take a certain path, or they need to walk, or they need to be transmitted all the way from my skin to the spinal cord or to the central nervous system so that my muscles can respond to that. As I told you guys, that you do not even have to think about this action. You don't have to think about it because it happens automatically. It's involuntary. It's an involuntary action. It's like breathing, guys. When you are breathing, your breathing is not really voluntary. Yes, you can choose to stop your breath sometimes, but basically there are some processes that happen on their own, that happen spontaneously. Even a reflex action, an action whereby you will remove or maybe you remove your organ from danger. It is a quick action that happens automatically so that it can save you from what? From danger. So the dangers, the advantages of having a reflex action, it is to save you from danger or save you from injury. All right. So it happens on its own. You are not the one doing it. All right. So we're going to start here simply with this example of a hand. Look at this, guys. This is a hand. I don't know if you guys can see. This is a finger, actually. We cannot really say it's a hand, but this is a finger. Can you guys see the finger here? This is the finger of a person, this one. Are you guys able to all see it? Maybe my diagrams are not so clear. Okay, so this is your finger. So the finger here, it has got a candle. So there's a candle beneath the finger. So beneath the finger, we've got a candle and we've got a flame there. We've got a flame. So it means that we've got something that is providing heat. So basically, I told you guys that this heat, the moment your finger gets closer to the heat, what will happen? That heat is a stimulus, or that flame there, it is the stimulus. It is what is actually happening outside. Now, we have got receptors in the skin in this case. So the receptors for this one are found in the skin. And the function of the receptors, it is to receive the stimulus. They receive the stimulus and they convert it into a nerve impulse. You should write into a nerve impulse. So basically, the sensory neuron is the one, the receptor, it is the one that detects, it is the one that senses the heat from this candle. So the moment the receptor cells that are found in the skin, the moment they experience or the moment they sense the heat, they will convert that into a message known as a nerve impulse. All right. So the function of a receptor is to convert the stimulus into a nerve impulse, because this message needs to either go to the brain or the spinal cord by 12. But if it is a quick response, it will go to the spinal cord. You don't have to think about it. So basically, the receptor cells in the skin, they are attached to the sensory neuron. So we'll move there to the sensory neuron. So this is your sensory neuron. So we've got a sensory neuron here, labeled part B here. This is a sensory neuron. So the sensory neuron, it is the one that is receiving the impulses immediately. Okay, so the moment, right? Okay, Bonola is asking, in this case, what is the stimulus? The stimulus is the heat from the flame. Okay, the stimulus is just what is happening in the outside environment. Okay, you can say in this case it is the heat of the flame, or you can say it is the flame itself, but something along that lines. It's not a one-way answer always for these questions, guys. You just look at what is the thing that is happening outside. All right. So this is the flame here that is acting as our stimulus. We convert it into a what? Into a nerve impulse. Those nerve impulses, what happens to them? They are sent directly into a sensory neuron, the 12s. The sensory neuron, I've already showed you the detailed structure of a sensory neuron. Here is the detailed structure. It has got a dendrite, it has got a cell body, and it has got an axon. But here I'm not going to, I'm just going to draw it as a stick diagram. So this is a sensory neuron. This highlighted in red is a sensory neuron. So where is the sensory neuron going there? It is going to the spinal cord, or it is going to the central nervous system, and specifically it's going to the spinal cord. Here is the sensory neuron. Here is the sensory neuron. You guys can see it. And here at this point, you guys can see that here we've got what? We've got a cell body. This is the cell body here. So this is the cell body. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's so small though. This one here is a small roundish thing there. I think I'm running it. Okay. Do you see guys here this roundish thing? That's your cell body. Do you guys see it? This one?
Yes.
On the sensory neuron. Yes, that's the cell body. So it is very long. The sensory neuron is very long because it is coming all the way from the hand. All the way from the hand where you are feeling the stimulus. All right. So as it does that, your sensory neuron will get to the central nervous system. So the moment it enters here, it is getting to the central nervous system. This thing that you are seeing here, this roundish thing, this is the spinal cord, guys. This is the cross-sectional view of the what? Of the spinal cord. I know we never did a label, a proper labeling of the spinal cord, but I can just show you in basic terms how the spinal cord looks like, right? So the spinal cord looks like this. When you cut through the spinal cord, this is how it looks like when you cut through it. That it is a tube, Yona. If you look at its longitudinal section, it is a tube like this that is connected to the brain. So it is a tube like this that is connected to the brain there on top. But if you look at its cross section, or if you cut it and try to view it to see if I cut this thing, how will it look like? This is how it looks like. This is the cross-sectional area. This is the cross-sectional diagram, or it is an internal structure of a spinal cord. And yes, guys, you do have to know how to draw it. Is simple. You don't have to put too many things. A spinal cord is a very simple structure. All right. The spinal cord has a very simple structure. What is the structure of the spinal cord? How does it look like? It has got this tube here that goes towards the spinal cord. This is the tube that goes towards the spinal cord. All right. This one is the tube that goes towards the spinal cord. So the tube that goes towards the spinal cord, this one, it is the one that is carrying the sensory neuron. Remember, guys, that the sensory neuron, we say that here, it is found here. Let's just go back. The sensory neuron from this former diagram that I have, you can see that this red thing that is highlighted, it is found in this tube here. It is found in this tube here. So this tube here is known as the dorsal root. It's known as the what? The dorsal root. So the dorsal root is basically the tube that is entering into the spinal cord. And inside the dorsal root, what do we have? We have got a sensory neuron. We have got a sensory neuron with a cell body. We have got a sensory neuron that is called a cell body. I don't know if you guys can see properly, but basically these are your sensory neurons, the one that I'm highlighting in red, these ones. You guys all see the cell bodies of these sensory neurons, this roundish thing here that you can see. Can you guys see them properly though? Maybe I need to zoom them in. Yes, those are the cell bodies for those neurons. Yeah, those are the cell bodies, guys. So this is a cell body for this. So this is a cell body for the sensory neuron. Even this as well is a cell body for the sensory neuron. So the sensory neuron is found inside a dorsal root of the spinal cord. The spinal cord has got a tube known as a dorsal root, grade 12. The tube is known as a what? A dorsal root. And inside the dorsal root, we find the sensory neuron. Where is the sensory neuron coming from, grade 12? It is coming from the receptors, because the receptors are the ones that are converting the messages or the nerve impulses into what? They're converting the stimulus into nerve impulses. And then now those nerve impulses are now then transmitted, or they are transported by the what? By the sensory neuron towards the spinal cord. So they are moving towards the spinal cord. So the nerve impulses or the messages that are coming from different receptor cells, they are doing what? They are moving towards the spinal cord. So now Mahloonolo says, sorry to ask this late, but does it mean when a person does not have any myelin sheath, they won't experience any pain? Okay, Mahloonolo, if the person does not have myelin sheath, they have this condition that is known as multiple sclerosis. Usually, when they've got myelin sheath, it takes time for them to be able to feel something. Okay, for example, if you go to those old grannies, for example, old grannies, you can greet them now and say, "Hello, Coco, how are you?" And then they're going to reply you after 10 seconds or 20 seconds. It's because the information takes time to get to their brain. It takes time to get to the central nervous system. So basically, a person that doesn't have myelin sheath, the conduction, remember that the myelin sheath, we say that it is increasing the speed of it is accelerating the impulses, or it is increasing the speed of the information to go to the brain. So the person that does not have myelin sheath will have impulses that are moving so slowly towards the brain, and they will end up having memory loss. But we're still going to do those conditions, guys. Let's focus on the reflex action in this case. So basically, the impulses that I'm indicating in green in this case, they are transported to the spinal cord. So this is the spinal cord, guys. So the impulses have reached the spinal cord. How did they reach the spinal cord? They were transmitted, or they were transported by the what? By the sensory neuron. Where is the sensory neuron found? It is found inside the dorsal root of the spinal cord. The dorsal root. So the dorsal root is just that pipe that has got a sensory neuron inside it. That's the dorsal root. And at this point, wherever we see a cell body, this region, wherever we see a cell body, for example, here you guys can see that here we've got a cell body here, right? This thing is mis-highlighting. So whenever you see a cell body close by, let's just use another color. For example, here you guys can see that we've got a cell body here. We have a cell body here. This region that has got a cell body, we say is known as the dorsal root ganglion. Is the dorsal root ganglion. It simply means that in your pipe that has got the sensory neuron, we have got this part that is a bit roundish. Why is the part roundish? It is because there is a cell body that is round inside it. So it's known as a dorsal root ganglion. So if we look at, when you look at it in this, when you look at it in this case, basically, you are going to see that here, the moment you see the cell body, this region that has got the cell body of the sensory neuron, basically it makes the dorsal root to be a bit fat, okay, to be a bit round. Let me use the term round. No, not fat, rather. Okay, so basically what happens, your dorsal root kind of becomes a bit big. You see that your dorsal root is becoming a bit big here. So these regions are known as the dorsal root ganglion. This is the part where we find the what? This is the part where we find the cell body of the sensory neuron. And then now the question is from Trevor. So if the sensory neuron goes all the way from the to the target organ in this case, so it means that the spinal cord is not connected to the efferent neuron. Okay, so no. We're still going there, Trevor. Don't worry, we're still going there. We're still at the sensory neuron. Owamanje, focus on the impulses reaching the central nervous system. That's what we are doing for now. We are going to go slowly up, and then we are going to talk about what happens when the impulses reach the central nervous system. So you cannot go straight to the target organ using a sensory neuron. No, the sensory neuron will only take the impulses from the receptor and they will move it to the spinal cord. Then you guys will walk with me to see what will happen to the neurons, to the impulses after they are now at the central nervous system. Okay, and then now Telmo is asking, will there only be one cell body or more? Okay, there's only one cell body, guys, in a sensory neuron. One sensory neuron has got one cell body, only one cell body. All right, that is why you are having these two regions here on both sides. Here we've got this region here that has got a cell body. Even on the other side here, we've got this region that has got a cell body that are making up the dorsal root ganglion. Are we together, great souls?
Yes, sir.
Yes, so with me, guys. Slowly we get there. We need to do this slowly so that we understand each and every part, right? So now we say that the sensory neurons carries the impulses, the nerve impulses from the receptors to the spinal cord. Don't just say to the central nervous system. Just in this case, for the reflex action, we say that to the spinal cord. So that's why you're seeing these arrows here to show that the impulses, aka the nerve impulses or the messages, are being sent to the what? To the spinal cord. And here is the spinal cord. This is the spinal cord that we're talking about, Kratos. All right. So at the spinal cord, one other thing that I want you guys to note about the structure of the spinal cord. So inside the spinal cord, we have got inside the spinal cord, we've got another neuron. Now we introduce the second type of neuron. Walk with me just slowly there. We've got another neuron that actually connects to the sensory neuron. So here it is. This is the other neuron that is connecting to the sensory neuron. So here on both sides, we're going to have another neuron that is connecting to the central neuron, to the sensory neuron. So all of this is happening inside the gray matter of the spinal cord. What is the gray matter in this case, Gretel? We're simply talking about this place here that is highlighted in purple. I think you guys can see a place highlighted in purple there. Can you guys see the place highlighted in purple here? This place that is making a shape, a certain shape here.
Yes, sir.
Yes, this is the gray matter. So we've got a gray matter, this shape here. It makes up the gray matter of the spinal cord. Usually in your diagrams for your exams, it's going to be highlighted in a black, or they're going to highlight it using white. But a standard diagram for your exams will have something like this. So you can see that the gray matter here is very clear. You guys can see the gray matter right now. The gray matter here, they've represented it using dots. So we've got dots. All right. So now, when we get at this point, guys, when the sensory neuron gets to the central nervous system, or specifically when the sensory neurons when the sensory neuron gets to the spinal cord, what happens to the impulses then? The sensory neuron actually connects to the interneuron. So this blue-like shape, this blue neuron that I've drawn right now, it is known as an interneuron. This one, it is known as an interneuron. So it's an interneuron, or it is known as a connector neuron. It is known as a connector neuron. So it is an interneuron. The interneuron is found in the gray matter of the spinal cord. So the interneuron is just a neuron that is found in the gray matter of the spinal cord. So now Bonol here is asking, what is the function of this gray matter, white matter? Not important for you guys to know that much. You can go and research further about it, but it has got a significance. It has got some sort of a significance there. Yeah, but you guys will go and research. That's your task. That is if you want to know, of course. Can you guys still see my screen now? All right. So basically, guys, we're having the interneuron here, the connector neuron. So the interneuron and the sensory neuron, they are connected to one another, because you guys saw that the sensory neuron was entering here. It entered the spinal cord. This is the sensory neuron. It entered into the spinal cord, and it is connected to the interneuron. So the impulses, they actually move from the sensory neuron and they go into the interneuron. So basically, the sensory neuron and the interneuron, they are connected to one another, grade 12s. So basically, the impulses that are coming from the receptor, or the ones that are coming from the sensory neuron, they are actually transmitted, or they are actually transported from this sensory neuron all the way into the into the interneuron as well. This is where we learn about this thing known as a synapse. Okay, before we even know the structure of the interneuron, we need to learn about a synapse. How does it even get how do two neurons end up connecting? But okay, we can just look at the interneuron here. The interneuron here, guys, is otherwise known as a connector neuron. So you can say interneuron or connector neuron. This is the structure of the neuron, guys. The structure of the neuron, it has got dendrites all on top as well. And then it has got a cell body, but the cell body this time, it is kind of part of the structure. Guys, you guys can see the difference between the sensory and the interneuron. The way they look like is different. Can you guys note the difference there? If you look at the sensory neuron, the first diagram that we had, and the interneuron, do you guys see the differences there?
Yes, sir.
Yes, they're different from one another. Look at the cell body carefully. It's different, right? So now, this is your interneuron or your sensory neuron. The interneuron, what does it do? Basically, it receives the impulses from the sensory neuron. So it carries the impulses inside the central nervous system from the sensory neuron, so all the way from the sensory neuron Because remember the impulses, guys, I told you guys that it is getting them from the sensory neuron and it takes them to the motor neuron. So we also have got another third neuron known as the motor neuron. We are still going to look at it. What does it do? But the interneuron or the connector neuron, it receives impulses. Where does it receive impulses from? Where does it receive impulses from? It receives them from the sensory neuron, because remember, guys, we said that the sensory neuron has taken the impulses from the receptor and it has moved them all the way to the central nervous system. When it got to the central nervous system, when it got to the spinal cord specifically here, it connected with an interneuron known as a connector neuron. You can say it's an interneuron, or you can say it's a what? It's a connector neuron. So basically the impulses will be transmitted from the sensory neuron to the interneuron. So this interneuron, it carries the impulses from the sensory neuron to another type of neuron known as the motor neuron. So we have a third neuron known as the motor neuron that is connected to the interneuron as well. And it is the one that lives like this. So we have got a motor neuron there that connects to the interneuron and it lives like this. It is the one that I'm highlighting in purple. This is the motor neuron. Hey guys, I don't know if I'm using my colors effectively here, but basically I'm sure you guys can see. Can you guys see the one that I've highlighted right now? Let me just change to orange. This one is the motor neuron. Do you guys see it, all of you?
Yes.
This one. Yes, it's the motor neuron, this one, guys. It's known as the motor neuron. So the impulses are moving from the sensory neuron and they go to the interneuron or the connector neuron, and then they go to the motor neuron. So basically the impulses will also move from the interneuron and they will go into the motor neuron. All right, we're going to talk about the motor neuron. We'll see what is it connected to and all of that. But basically the impulses, they start at the receptor, they go through the sensory neuron, they come to the spinal cord. When they reach the gray matter of the spinal cord, they are going to meet this interneuron or this connector neuron. And the impulses will be transmitted from the sensory neuron through this connector neuron. They will go to the motor neuron. Okay, and we take questions there. So now Bonolo is saying, so always the direction of impulses is from dendrites to the axon, or they can swap. Okay, so basically it depends, right? So some neurons are unipolar, some neurons are bipolar, some neurons are multipolar. All right, so this is where this multipolar, unipolar stuff gets a piece. All right, when you say that a neuron is unipolar, it simply means that it allows the impulses to only flow in one direction. That is a unipolar. When you say that it is multipolar, when you say that it is bipolar, it means that it allows the impulses to travel in two directions. But when you say that it is multipolar, it means that it allows the impulses to travel in multiple directions. They can travel in multiple directions. So Bonolo's question is saying, are the impulses always going to move in one direction? No, not really, because the interneuron and the motor neuron, they are multipolar actually. Those two, they are what? They are multipolar. Being multipolar, it simply means that now we have got what? The impulses can either travel this way down or they can travel up. But you will know when they are traveling up, what is actually happening. What are they doing when they are traveling up? For now, let's just say they are traveling down for now. But when they are traveling up, you guys will now know later on what are they actually doing when they're traveling up. All right. So for now, let's just stick to this, guys, and finish up. All right. So nothing much to talk about the interneuron or the connector neuron, because it is the one that is found inside the central nervous system, right? It carries those impulses coming from the sensory neuron and it carries them to the what? To the motor neuron. Guys, the motor neuron is another third neuron again. So the connection works like this. Sensory neuron will transmit impulses to interneuron, and then the impulses will move from the interneuron to the motor neuron. All right. So the impulses will end up getting to the motor neuron. And I've already showed you from the labels, grade 12, so the impulses, they come from the receptor through the sensory neuron and they come to the spinal cord. In the spinal cord, they find the interneuron, they find the connector neuron. And those impulses will flow from the sensory neuron to the interneuron. And when they reach the interneuron, they will even cross as well to go to the what? To the motor neuron. They will go to a what? To a motor neuron. So the connector neuron, the term connector, it simply means that it is connecting two neurons here. It is connecting the sensory neuron and the motor neuron. That's why we call it a connector neuron, because it is connecting the sensory neuron and a motor neuron. So it doesn't have any other function that much besides just connecting those two, so that it allows the impulses to be able to flow from the sensory neuron all the way to the motor neuron. It allows the impulses to be able to flow there. So with that in mind, we can try to look at how do impulses flow from one neuron to another. Because I'm already telling you guys that the sensory neuron will give its impulses to the interneuron. That's what I'm telling you. But now you ask yourself, or you tend to ask yourself, how do these two neurons connect with one another? So basically, we're going to introduce something known as a synaptic gap, or we're going to introduce something known as a synapse before we get to the function of the motor neuron. All right. So when we get here, we have got this thing known as a synapse, or you can say it's known as a synaptic gap, right? So right now, guys, the neurons are connected to one another. I've already told you that the sensory neuron connects to the interneuron, and the interneuron connects to the motor neuron. So let's just say this is my sensory neuron with its dendrites, and then it has got its cell body here. Next here, it has got its cell body, and then this is the axon, right? And then this axon has got terminal branches like this. This is how it looks like. This is your sensory neuron. So when I'm connecting this sensory neuron to an interneuron, all right, the interneuron will connect with its dendrites here. So these are the dendrites of the interneuron, and then this is your interneuron, and then this is its cell body, and then it will now connect to the motor neuron. Let me just view the full screen so that you guys can see. So do you guys see that the neurons, they're actually connected to one another, and the gap between them, or this functional connection between them here, it is known as a synapse. So it's known as a synapse, or you can say it's known as a synaptic gap. So the synapse is just a connection, guys. It's a functional connection between the two neurons that are following each other. It can be between the sensory neuron and the interneuron, or you can say it is between the interneuron and the motor neuron. Because I already told you guys that the impulses will start there at the sensory. From the receptor, they will go to the sensory neuron. And then when they move from the sensory neuron, they go to the central nervous system, which is the spinal cord, where they will find a what? An interneuron. And then now when they move from the interneuron, they will go to the what? They will go to the motor neuron. These three types of neurons that we have. So in this context, grade 12, these two consecutive neurons, they've got a functional connection between them known as a synapse, or you can say it is known as a synaptic gap. So this is known as a synaptic gap, or you can say it is a synapse. So it's a functional connection. So basically what happens at a synapse? At a synapse, remember that the impulses, they are reaching, this is the axon, right? So this is the axon. This is the axon of the sensory neuron, and then these are the dendrites of the interneuron. All right, so these are the dendrites of the interneuron, because this is the sensory, right? This is your sensory neuron, and then this is your interneuron. So the axon of the sensory neuron will connect to the dendrites of the interneuron, so that the impulses will be able to do what? Will be able to flow. Flow kanjani? They will flow from these terminal ends or terminal branches of the axon, and they will flow to the what? To these dendrites. And then now the impulse will now be a dendrite, and it will continue moving and moving until it reaches the motor neuron. So basically here, this connection between them, the connection that allows the impulses to be able to flow from one neuron to another, is known as a synaptic gap, or is known as a synapse. Yes, Sam?
So, sir, since you talked about synaptic gap, this means ama-dendrites awe sensors nawe malawa manye say they don't meet kahle kahle.
The dendrites of the sensory neuron and the dendrites of interneuron,
Yes, sir.
they can never meet, because really the dendrites of the sensory neuron, they are taking impulses from their receptor. Actually, the dendrites of the sensory neuron, they are getting impulses from the receptor. So basically, the receptor is giving some impulses is converting the stimulus into impulses, and the impulses are going into the dendrites of the what? Of the sensory neuron. And then they will move down to the axon. When they get to the axon, they will jump to the next neuron, which is the interneuron. Is that clear?
Okay. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome, boy. So now that's how it works. So basically the connection is between the axon of the previous neuron and the dendrites of the next neuron, so that the impulses can be able to jump over. That is the synaptic connection that we're talking about. We want the impulses to be able to jump over from the first neuron to the next one. All right. Okay. So with that in mind, grade 12s, we can now look at how do we describe a synapse. Norma, how does a synapse happen? Okay, I've already defined, guys. I told you that a synapse is basically a point. So a synapse is a what? Is a point. So it's a point where impulses pass from the end of one neuron. So this is from the end of one neuron to the dendrite of the next neuron. Because whether they remember that the impulses, they enter through the dendrites, guys. The impulses, they enter through the dendrites here. That's where the impulses enter. They enter through the dendrites. So basically, this functional connection between two neurons. So I'm going to say that this is the axon of neuron 1. This is the end of neuron 1. That is the axon of neuron 1. This axon here. This is the axon of neuron number 1. And then the axon of neuron number 1 is connected to the what? To the dendrite. So this is the dendrite of neuron number 2. This is just the microscopic structure. They are viewing it or they are zooming it, right? Right. So these two are not really physically in contact, guys. They're not really physically in contact. Because you guys can see as Tintan lays into, they're not in contact, guys. They're not in physical contact. So neurons, they never touch each other. Well, whatever function whatever connection that we're talking about here, the synapse is not really a physical connection. They never touch each other. They never have contact with one another. So neurons do not have any contact with one another, but the impulses are still able to jump from the terminal end of one neuron to the beginning of the next neuron. So this one is kind of a functional connection. That is what we call a functional connection. A functional connection doesn't really mean two things must touch each other. No, it simply means that two things must be able to exchange something. In this case, the impulses are able to move from the what? From the dendrites. The impulses are able to move from the axon, of neuron 1, and they're able to move to the what? To the dendrites of neuron 2. They're able to move from the axon of neuron 1 to the dendrites of neuron 2. So it is just a functional connection. So whenever you want to describe a synapse, you can say it's a point where impulses pass from one end of a neuron to the dendrite of the other one, or you can say it is a functional connection. So whenever you say the term functional connection, please guys, take note of this, especially in biological terms. In biological terms, they will ask it in this way, functional connection. So when we have a functional connection between two neurons, that is when we say we have got what? A synapse. And then this synaptic gap, it actually ensures that impulses only travel in one direction, and it prevents continuous stimulation of the neurons. So for these neurons to be able to travel, you ask yourself, how do they actually travel here? Because these two are not physically in contact. Basically, the impulses, how do they travel? The impulses, they are transmitted by this thing known as neurotransmitters. So neurotransmitters are just those, you can just say they are packages for making it simple. They are just those things that can be able to carry the impulses from the first neuron here to the next neuron. So those are known as neurotransmitters. They transmit impulses from the end of the first neuron to the beginning of the second neuron. So they are neurotransmitters, and they ensure that these impulses, they are traveling in one direction here. So if the impulses are coming from the receptor, all of them, they will be going to the spinal cord. There is no way of them going back unless we have another response triggering them to go back.
Hey Lapo, I know that you've been enjoying this wonderful video and most likely you've been enjoying watching this handsome face in front of you, but sorry ladies, I'm taken. I just here to tell you that Educate is on the road to 100,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. So please click the subscribe button and click the notification bell so that you get notifications whenever I post new videos. I want you guys to pass. Okay, so if you make my dream true, I reach 100k subscribers, I will make your dreams come true. I will even get you to varsity. I will get you with 7 distinctions. Yes.
Still explaining, guys, the synaptic gap. I already explained. It's a functional connection between two neurons. I don't know if this diagram is visible. We have a diagram here at the side. I don't know if you guys can see it. But here we've got two neurons that are functionally connected. So this is one neuron. This is one neuron. And then this is the other. These are the dendrites of the other neuron. And then they are connected to one another. So we are just zooming in this region where they are connected in to find the synapse. So the synapse, I think I've explained a lot on that one, guys. Yeah, I think we get the sense of a synapse now. So the synapse actually is the one that allows the impulses to be able to move from one neuron to the next. That is why here I'm saying what the impulses will flow, or they will move. First, they will move from the sensory neuron, from the receptor to the sensory neuron. And then when they reach the sensory neuron will transmit them all the way to the central nervous system, which is the spinal cord. And then now they will be transmitted from the sensory neuron to the interneuron via this functional connection known as a synapse. So if they were to highlight in a question or in an exam, they say, what is this region known as? This region is a synapse. This region is a synapse because basically this is where two neurons meet. This is where two neurons connect. This is the functional connection between them. So this functional connection is known as a synapse, or you can say it's known as a synaptic gap. So any one of those is a synapse or is a synaptic gap. And it allows the neurons to be able to move from the axon of the previous neuron to the dendrite of the next neuron. Is that understandable, Charles?
Yes, sir.
Yes, all right. So manje, we have got our impulses. They are now at the motor neuron. I'm sure whether the interneuron was just connecting the sensory neuron to the motor neuron. Now our impulses have arrived at the motor neuron. What are they going to do at the motor neuron, grade 12? Basically, let's look at the motor neuron. That is what I'm trying to say. What is the motor neuron? The motor neuron is otherwise known as the efferent. So efferent, it means that now our impulses, they are now moving away from the what? They are now moving away from the spinal cord. And then someone is asking, what is the function of neurotransmitters? The neurotransmitters, they just help the impulses to be able to flow from the previous neuron to the next neuron. So basically, I'm sure we say, these two, they are not in physical contact. I told you guys that these two, like the first neuron and the second neuron, they are not touching each other. They are not connected to each other physically, none whatsoever. So it means that the only way for the impulses to be able to move from the previous neuron to the next neuron, it is via the neurotransmitters. So the neurotransmitters, they are the ones that actually help the neurons, the impulses, to be able to cross over. Normal, we can say that the neurotransmitters, they are the ones that actually carry the impulses from the previous thing, from the previous neuron to the next neuron. I don't know if you guys can see that clearly, but here we have got smaller nyana dots between these two neurons. Those smaller nyana dots are the neurotransmitters. They are the ones that are carrying the impulses from the previous neuron going to the next neuron. Yes, Kopano.
Sir, I wanna ask, you see the neurotransmitters, are they like found like in the synaptic gap?
Yes, they actually flow, they are moving, like, they're not just standing at one place, they are moving. They move from the previous neuron to the next neuron, and they are carrying impulses with them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they are moving. Neurotransmitters, guys, they're not just static things, they're actually moving, and they are carrying these impulses to be able to cross over from the previous neuron to the next neuron. All right, so now you guys should note here that the motor neuron is taking the impulses away from the what? Away from the spinal cord. The motor neuron is taking impulses away from the spinal cord. That is why I'm showing arrows that are moving away. So a motor neuron is taking away the impulses away from the spinal cord. So that's why we call them efferent. You guys already know that the afferent, some people won't say that something is afferent. It means that it is bringing in something. So in this case, the sensory neuron is known as an afferent neuron because it is bringing in the impulse, bringing them into the spinal cord. Then the motor neuron, it is taking them out of the spinal cord. Hence, we call it an efferent. So we've got an afferent or an efferent. So these are just synonyms for these two neurons. So you can say it's an afferent neuron, or you can say, or for the motor neuron, you can say that it's an efferent neuron, or you can use the term motor neuron. Is that clear, grade 12s?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. We're finally here at the motor neuron. The motor neuron is the final neuron that will receive the impulses or the messages. So this is how the motor neuron looks like, guys. The cell body of the motor neuron, it is found right exactly next to the dendrites. So these are your dendrites. You can see these are your dendrites, and they are directly connected to your cell body. They are directly connected to your cell body. That is how you identify what we have here is a motor neuron, because you can see that your dendrites are directly connected to the cell body. So we've got dendrites, and then we've got our cell body here. This is our cell body here. So the dendrites are directly connected to the cell body. Hence we say it's a motor neuron. You need to know the structures of these neurons, grade 12, and know how to draw them, because the sensory neuron is different from the interneuron and is different from the motor neuron. The motor neuron has got the cell body right at near the dendrites. And then now we can have the axon here. So this part here is an axon. This is our axon. And then there, now let's talk about where is the, okay, yes, Trevor, what's your question before I proceed?
So the statement ASCT, and it prevents continuous stimulation of neurons. So
Okay. Here, when you say OTA, the synaptic gap ensures impulses only travel in one direction, and it prevents continuous stimulation of the neurons. Basically, when you're saying that the neurons are being stimulated, it simply means that there are impulses that are moving. There are impulses that are moving through them. Okay, so remember, these impulses, they only move whenever you have got a message that is to be transmitted all the way from the outside environment to the central nervous system. So if it happened, let's just assume, or let's just pretend, what maybe one day, the impulses were just moving in an irregular manner, meaning that the impulses, some of them were moving this direction, some of them were going there, some of going them. So basically, your neurons will say that they are overstimulated. Okay, because the impulses are just moving. Remember, guys, that these impulses are actually electrical signals. So imagine the electricity just moving all in opposite direction. It actually causes the neurons to be overstimulated. We use the term overstimulated, or we can say continuous stimulation, because now the neurons have to always be there to be able to transmit these impulses there and there and there and there. But if they are moving in one direction in an orderly manner, because here this synaptic gap, it ensures these neurons, these impulses, they will move in one direction in an orderly manner. If they are moving down, they will all move down. The impulses, I mean. If they are moving up, they will all move up. But basically, this order that we are bringing, it actually makes the neurons to function properly. But if it happens that now your neurons, your impulses, Jalo, they are now moving in different directions, in haphazard direction. Let's just pretend that we did not have a synaptic gap and these two were in contact and your impulses were just moving in different directions. Your neurons will be overstimulated. They will be overstimulated, or they will be overused, something like that. You can use such a term to try and get a grasp of it. Is that making a bit of sense, Etrem?
Yes.
Yes, Kopano.
Sir, I want to ask a question again, right, regarding the neurotransmitters. Okay, so basically we know that our nerve impulses are transmitted by our 3 different neurons, right? So basically, like inside those neurons, we have neurotransmitters that actually carry the nerve impulses, right? Is
Yes,
that
yes,
like the role of the neurotransmitter?
yes, exactly. They're actually chemical messengers. We usually call them chemical messengers. The most term that they use to describe them, just whenever they give you biological terms, they are kind of known as chemical messengers. We say that they're chemical messengers because basically they do what? Since the neurons, they do not touch each other, that tiny gap on the synapse, the neurons, the neurotransmitters, they kind of bridge the gap because they're able to move from the what? From the axon's terminal, from this axon, the first axon's terminal, all the way to the dendrite of the new neuron. So basically, the whole point of having neurotransmitters is so that they can be able to carry the impulses from the previous neuron to the next neuron over a synaptic gap. They only appear at the synaptic gap, specifically the synaptic gap, because we don't need them throughout the entire neuron. There are other mechanisms, but basically at the synaptic gap, gap, they kind of act as a bridge. They bridge the gap because they're able to just carry the impulses, but they are chemicals actually. They are chemical messengers. Is that a kind of a making sense?
Okay.
Yeah. So they are chemical messengers
Yes.
that bridge the gap, and they make sure that the impulses are able to cross over. All right, see. So now we can look at the motor neuron, right? Let's look at the motor neuron. What does it do with the impulses? Because I said the interneuron is connected to the motor neuron. The motor neuron will take in the impulses at the same dendrites as well. Okay, so the impulses will be taken in at the dendrites as well, the same way. So when the impulses are being taken in here at the dendrites, they will pass through the cell body. All right, they will pass through the cell body and then they will go down the axon. And where do they go to now? Because the motor neuron is the last neuron that we have in this chain. So the last place where they go to is known as an effector. So this is an effector. So the effector can be one of two things. It can either be a gland or it can be a muscle. So the effector can be a gland or a muscle. What is the effector? The effector's function is to really to respond. Because remember, guys, this is all about responding to the external environment. Now the message has reached the motor neuron. The motor neuron will take this message to the effector. The effector can be a gland or a muscle. Remember, guys, a gland releases hormones. A muscle, you guys already know muscles. We've got loads of muscles in our body. The skeletal muscles that are making us able to move and balance and have some mobility. So basically, the moment you touch a flame or the moment you touch a hot surface, all right, the message, remember the stimulus, which is the heat, it was converted into a nerve impulse. It went through the sensory neuron, it went to the interneuron, and it went to the motor neuron. The motor neuron will take it to the gland or the muscle that will help you to be able to move your hand away from the hot surface. Because remember, this is all about responding, and it happens on its own. That is why I told you that whenever you put your hand on top of the stove, you don't even think about removing the hand. You will remove the hand spontaneously because the message or the impulse are transmitted all the way to the central nervous system. And then they move through the interneuron, they go to the motor neuron, all the way to the gland or muscle known as an effector. So now, the time, let's just go back to this neater diagram. The time the impulses reach the motor neuron, because the motor neuron will be here. Okay, this is the motor neuron here, which is the motor neuron. The motor neuron is here. This is the motor neuron. This is the motor neuron. Where is the motor neuron going? It is going towards the what? It is going towards the effector. This is the effector. So the effector, it is a structure which produces the reaction or the response. For example, the muscles in the finger. If here we bring a flame, the muscles in your finger will start contracting and they will start moving away from the flame. The muscles will do that. You don't have to think about that. The muscles will do that on their own because they bring about a response to the environment. That's why the topic is known as the response to the environment by humans. So the moment we are sensing such an environment, the muscles will automatically contract, or the muscles will automatically move away from the stimulus, because really the motor neuron will take the message, which is the impulses, and take it to the effectors. Tells the effectors, with no man, someone is burning out there. It tells the muscles that someone is burning out there, and those muscles that are burning, the muscles there, they will start contracting and they'll move away from the flame. That is how that is how a reflex action basically works. It's all about taking it all the way to the at the end of the day, we need the muscles to respond to the stimulus. It's all about bringing about a response to the stimulus. So this motor neuron, where is it found? Okay, what is its basic function? Basic function of the motor neuron, we can say that it carries the impulses away from the central nervous system, and it carries it towards the what? It carries them towards the effectors. The effectors can be muscles or glands. So these are the effectors here. They represent muscles or glands that respond to the environment. The response can be different. You can either pull away your hand, or you can do whatever it is, or you can jump. Other people jump. Let's just say a snake lands in your leg. Other people jump away from that. So basically, that's just kind of how it works, right? And we say that this is a multipolar. It is a multipolar. It's a type of a multipolar neuron. So it means that it has got many dendrites leaving the cell body, so they can go in multiple directions. So since they can go in multiple directions, it means that the neuron, the impulses, they do not always have to flow in one direction. They can go in multiple directions, or they can go in different directions. Is that clear, Gretchen? Yes, Trevor.
Polarity sensory neuron in effect with the impulse thinking. For example, if the sensory neuron interpreted unipolar, so impulses only go in one direction. Mas compara the motor neuron, impulses will go in multiple directions. And simply multipolar. So in the balema multipolar, in the effect with it, the impulse.
No. I guess when an effect at all. Reason being, remember, in a unipolar, we say that they are moving. They can only move in one direction. Means that there is no other possibility. They can only move in one direction, right? But in a multipolar neuron, it means that we've got many dendrites that are leaving the cell body, right? So the impulses, they can move in multiple directions, but not all of them, they move in multiple directions at the same time. That is why at the synapse, guys, I told you that during the synapse, it makes sure that the impulses are traveling in one direction only. So if they are all going to one side, they will go to that side. If they're all going there, they will go there. If they're all going that direction, they'll go that direction. But they do not do that at the same time, nor simultaneously. So eventually the speed is not really affected. What really affects the speed is the myelin sheath, the presence of the myelin sheath. At least for the grade 12 level, we're just going to look at that factor alone. Although if you keep on learning later on, you'll find out that there are other factors that affect the speed. But this one, the multipolar and the unipolar and the bipolar, is all focused mostly on the direction. How many directions can the impulses take? Or we can say how many dendrites are leaving the cell body, something like that. Yeah, how many dendrites are leaving the cell body? Remember how many things are leaving the cell body. But we can say that how many directions. And these diagrams are not drawn to scale, but the idea here of multipolar, unipolar, and bipolar is how many directions can this be able to think? Can this be able to move? Is that kind of clear?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So with that in mind, we can say that the motor neuron will be the one that will take the impulses away from the central nervous system, and it will go towards the what? Towards the effector muscle. The effector muscle, it can either be a muscle or it can be a gland. So it can be a muscle or a gland. So the effector can be a muscle or a gland. So basically, a motor neuron, it is attached here at the bottom, is attached to a muscle or a gland. This is your effector. This is your effector. And this effector will be the one that brings about the response. We've already explained neurotransmitters, guys. We've already explained the synapse. Okay, already explained the synapse. I think it's quite clear on that one. So, yeah, that's it, guys. So for this, how do you kind of answer these questions that they are related to the reflex action and the reflex arc? Because now I'm sure you guys understand how does the message go all the way to reach the muscle that will bring a reaction. All right. So this is the path of a reflex arc. Remember, the reflex arc, it is the path, the path taken by the impulse in bringing about a response, because we only want to respond to the environment or to respond to the stimulus. So during a reflex action, when your body wants to respond to a particular stimulus, the impulse has to take a certain path known as the reflex. So this happens during a reflex action, which is a quick response that is involuntary, that is automatic, and doesn't involve, okay, the reflex action, you can also add that it doesn't involve the brain. Or you can say that it involves spinal cord only. All of those terms, you can use them to make definitions there. Involves spinal cord only. So it involves the spinal cord only. So this is such a thing, a reflex action, right? And then now, so basically, as I've already shown you the chain, guys, I still remember showing you something like this. We start with the receptor. That's the first point. And then the receptor will take a stimulus, convert it to impulse, and then those impulses will go to the sensory neuron, and then it will go to the interneuron, and then it will go to the motor neuron. The motor neuron will take it to the effector so that you can bring about a certain response. All right. So one thing that you can mention as well, basically this motor neuron, it is found inside a ventral root. So this pipe of the spinal cord, because here we're doing the structure of the spinal cord as well, once off. So here, if you mind the structure here of the spinal cord, we've got a pipe or this tube that is having the motor neuron inside it. So this tube or this pipe that is carrying the motor neuron inside it, this one that is carrying the motor neuron inside it, it is known as a ventral root. So remember, we talked about a dorsal root, right? The one that is carrying the sensory neuron. But now we also have got a ventral root. This one is a ventral root. So the ventral root here, now what is it doing? The ventral root, it is carrying the motor neuron inside it. It has got the motor neuron. But the dorsal root, it consists of the what? Of the sensory neuron. So this is your ventral root. So the motor neuron is found inside the ventral root. Is a Kopano.
Sir, what do you call that part between the dendrites and the cell body of our sensory and interneuron?
Oh, this part here.
Is it also like
we don't really label it. We only label the axon after the cell body. But we can just consider it a part of the dendrites. Yeah, we can just consider it part with these dendrites, but we don't really need to label it. So,
okay, sir.
Yeah. So to those who are interested in dark matter or gray matter and white matter, it consists of myelinated axons of the numerous neurons, and then the gray matter consists of mostly the cell body as well as the dendrites of the numerous neurons. All right. So basically the white matter them, remember, we can see white matter and we can see gray matter. So the gray matter, I've already highlighted it here, the one that is made with dots here, the dotted lines here, or the dots here, I meant. So this is the gray matter. Then the white matter is just going to be the entire part out there here. So this part here is the white matter. This part here is the white matter. This is the white matter. So what is the difference between them? You just look at what we find inside them. The white matter has got myelinated axons. These are the axons that have got myelin sheath whenever we use the term myelinated or myelinated, okay, when you use the term myelinated axons, it simply means that these are the axons that consist of myelin sheath of those neurons. But the gray matter usually has got a lot of cell bodies as well as the dendrites. So it's all about what is found, what part of the neuron is found in that place. So in white matter of the spinal cord, we have got axons that have got myelin sheath that are myelinated. That's why we use the term myelinated. But in the gray matter, we see cell bodies and we see dendrites of those neurons. Yes, Ekopano.
Sir, I wanna ask one last question, right?
Yes.
So basically, I like have a question that I need clarity on. So you remember when you like explained the function of a sensory neuron, right? And you said
Yes.
that its function is to like transmit nerve impulses from the receptor cells to the CNS. And then you further showed us a diagram in which you said like the nerve impulses are like transmitted to the CNS, right? Which can be directly basically from like the nerve impulses are transmitted to the CNS, which can be directly to the brain or the vertebral column, basically like the spinal cord, right? Like I don't really get what you meant by that, because according to the figure of the human being that you showed us, which was like showing the nervous system, it showed
Yeah.
that all the nerves of the body are directly connected to the spinal cord and not the brain. So like how exactly can like nerve impulses be transmitted to the brain when all the nerves in the body connect directly to the spinal cord?
Okay, remember.
Yes, this diagram.
Exactly, cool. Remember, we've got spinal nerves as well as cranial nerves. Spinal means that they are going towards the spinal cord. And then the cranial
Spinal
means that,
cord.
yes, the cranial means that they are going towards the brain.
Oh, okay. So basically, when we say nerve impulses are transmitted directly either to the brain or the spinal cord, we're like also including like our facial nerves, like from our other sense organs, such as like our eyes, which are
Yes,
of course
all of them.
directly connected to the brain.
Yes. So basically, let's just say you are smelling something. When you are smelling something, basically, you're gonna have some receptors in your nose. When you are tasting something, you're gonna have some receptors in your mouth. In your eyes, there are also receptors known as photoreceptors. They transmit those impulses via the cranial nerves because they are going to the brain. So the cranial nerves are the ones that are leading towards the brain. Then the spinal nerves, they are leading towards the spinal cord. Hence the name cranial and spinal.
Oh, okay. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Okay. So guys, let's just go cut this. Let's finish this by just giving a way to describe the reflex action, right? How can you just answer this in a question? Because now you guys already understand, but now to just conclude this, to describe the reflex action. Basically, they were describing this particular reflex action of a person that is bending, like we're talking about the hand that is bending, right? The finger that is bending. So you start from the top, right? So the receptors in the skin, they receive the stimulus, then the stimulus is converted into a nerve impulse. Then this nerve impulse travels along the sensory neurons towards the spinal cord, or you can say towards the central nervous system. And then it actually travels along the dorsal root of the spinal nerve, because we already know that the sensory neuron is found inside a dorsal root. So you can say this is just the English wording here. It's known as wording, like wedding, not the wedding yomshado. Okay, so this is the English wording here is saying that this is happening along the dorsal root of the spinal nerve. It simply means that the sensory neuron is found inside the dorsal root, to keep it simple. And then in the spinal cord, the sensory neuron will make the synaptic contact. This one is the most important thing. The contact between the sensory neuron and the connector neuron is a synaptic one. It is not a physical contact. It's a synaptic contact. All right. It's just a functional connection between the two. And then the impulses are transmitted along the motor neuron. Okay. And then along the ventral root. We know that the motor neuron is found inside the ventral root of the spinal nerve, and they go to the effector organ or the effector gland or the effector muscle. So the effector muscle is the one that will contract and pulls the hand away from the flame. And this reflex action will actually be giving a quick response to the stimulus so that the injury will be minimized, which I won't give a mark, of course. But basically, when you are describing a reflex action, try to mention it in this sequence, guys. Start at the receptor. Talk about the receptor taking the stimulus and converting it to an impulse. Okay, for this case, our receptor, it is the receptors in the skin. It depends on the case that you are given. If they say just generally explain a reflex action, you're going to say that receptors, they convert stimulus into an impulse. That is reasonable. But here, this is specific for this particular problem. For this particular problem, grade 12, receptors in the skin receive the stimulus. The receptors in the skin particularly, because this is a stimulus that is being implemented, or that is being made on the skin. And that stimulus is converted into a nerve impulse. The impulse travels along the sensory neuron. The process is the same throughout. And then at the end of the day, we are going to have a response. In this case, our response from the effector is going to contract the hand and pulls it away from the stimulus. The examples of reflex action, we've got blinking. Blinking is a reflex action. Coughing is a reflex action. Sneezing is a reflex action. And knee jerk is a reflex action. Pulling your hand away from a hot object, the one that we've been doing the entire session, it is a reflex action as well. So just any quick response, because blinking is involuntary, by the way. You don't choose to really blink per se. It happens naturally on its own, right? So coughing as well. You don't really choose to cough. You can try to hold your cough whenever you feel like you want to cough, but you cannot really, it's not really voluntary. It's not something that you can just choose to say, Manje, I want to cough. No. That is pretense, okay? And what is the significance of this reflex action? It is to protect the body by reacting quickly. So it protects the body. That's one mark, reacting quickly. Basically, this whole reflex action thing, it is protecting the body by giving a quick response. So it protects the body by reacting quickly. And then the interneuron, the other thing, the interneuron makes a shortcut, not going to the brain, right? The interneuron does not go to the brain. As I've already told you that this reflex action, it doesn't involve the brain. Impulses will go straight to the spinal cord. And when they reach the spinal cord there, what do? They will use a reflex pathway that will then they will go straight to the motor neuron. They will avoid going to the brain. So this action does not require you to think about it. So since it does not require you to think about it, we can simply say that it helps you to escape danger quickly. Because when there is danger, you don't really need to think, Uti, you want to escape or you don't want. Because if you don't want to escape, you're going to die. And I'm sure you don't want to die. All right. So something like that. So basically, this interneuron connection is actually shortcutted, or it is short-circuited. It doesn't connect to the brain. So your brain will never know, your brain will never get a time or a moment to think about the action or the response to the stimulus, but the brain will not be involved. But the impulses will go straight to the spinal cord. Then the spinal cord will do the rest of the work on its own using the motor neuron. The motor neuron which will go to the effector which will eventually contract and pull the hand away from the stimulus. Are we together, grade 12?
Yes, sir.
Guys, let us close our eyes and pray and say, Baba wethu osemanzulwini siyabonga Nkosi nosipha amandla usukwini namhlanje Baba nokusikhombisa indlela uNkulunkulu nokuba nathi Baba. Siyabonga uNkulunkulu ngokusibekela uNkulunkulu nokusivikela Baba. Ngamunye ngamunye wethu Baba, siyabonga uNkulunkulu kwakhona kwakho Nkosi, umoya ongcwele wakho uNkulunkulu usiduduza Baba la singaboni khona Baba. La uNkulunkulu sesidlula khona sinezinhliziyo ezaphelileyo Baba. Namhlanje Nkosi ngoba sesilala uNkulunkulu lala nawo wonke umfundo khona Nkosi kule ndawo Baba. Siyakhulekela kwakho umoya ongcwele uNkulunkulu bekuyena Baba. Ukuthi uNkulunkulu yonke into esiyifundile Baba, nento esazoyifunda Baba, uzoyizwa Nkosi, izocacelelana Nkosi. Wenzothi yonke into uNkulunkulu ihambe kahle Nkosi. Ifeze iso kwakho umbuso, wejazi lakhe ikhuluma ohle lethu. Namhla kuze kuphathe naphakade. Amen.